it really opened my eyes to what it is we're really doing when we own a business. We're just stewarding something for this little point in time. And that stewardship, it's important to make sure you strengthen it while it's under your stewardship when you're passing that baton to the next owner or the next steward. Everything we do in our business, it's about the mission and the vision. It shouldn't be all about me, the owner. It shouldn't be about just all what I want, my ideas. Trying to make sure that you realize your stewardship, it's not about you. And when God put this on my plate to consider selling my business, I'm like, hey, well, how can it strengthen my mission and my vision? Good day, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you for joining us here at the Guidelight Podcast. Today, I have a very great, interesting topic that I think you'll enjoy. It's something I hear time and time again, especially in the faith community. And this is a question: is it God's will for me to sell my business? And I'll be honest, that's something that I had to wrestle with a number of years ago. But a really quick and short answer, and this may sound cliche or something, but yes, it is God's will. But hear me out. It's not necessarily about, yes, he wants you to sell it tomorrow. It's really about the when. And it is also about the how. And that's probably even something you want to consider first is anytime someone talks to me about selling their business, oftentimes we talk about being prepared and what does that look like. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. We're going to talk about the how, we're going to talk about the when, talking about discerning God's will. So yeah, here we go. We're going to jump right into it. So the big question is how. Like, so many people just think, well, how do I sell my business? I've even heard people saying they know they could sell their business. They didn't think there was a value to it. And there's always a value to it. You just need to find the right buyer. But the how really works in three ways. So one of the biggest ways is a full third-party sell. That's what most people, it's the most traditional way. It's usually the cleanest way. Owner wanting to exit, he finds the right buyer. That's a whole nother podcast in of itself about finding the right buyer. But you find the right buyer, you get a clean exit. You oftentimes get the highest multiple for your business, so you're get the best value out of it. And like I said, it's usually very clean to where there's not a lot of contingencies. There's always contingencies in every sale, but that traditional method of what I call the full third party sale, the clean exit, that's what most people think of when they're selling their business. And so there's a lot of things to consider there. The next couple are really, I kind of put these in two different categories. They're both kind of what we call internal succession, but I break it down into an internal succession for like key players or a management group, basically passing it along to the people that built it. And if you have the right people in place and they have the right skill sets and there's a desire, that can be a really awesome transition to turn your company over to the team that you helped build and design with the guidance of the Lord. And just seeing that those, what options can be played out in that. Now, there are definitely some challenges to that. And I always, tell buyers, you definitely want to be guided through that. You want to make sure that it is the right fit and that certain things are in alignment because that done wrong can sometimes go pretty poorly. The next one is kind of still internal, but it's called the family transition, right? So I was potentially a part of a family transition, and it would have been great. It was actually great for my two brother-in-laws. I kind of stepped out on my own and wasn't part of that. But when the family transition is done well, it really is a neat thing to see a legacy pass from generation to generation. And so if that's you and that's on your heart, we've seen phenomenal stories of where passing your legacy down to the next generation to be stewarded is really a beautiful thing. But again, there are, pros and cons with that, just things you need to kind of look at and consider. Is it the right thing? What's the, finance? There's a lot of tax strategies even with that when you're dealing with family and things like that. So again, I really wanted to take away, because I didn't want to do a deep dive into all of these and we could go down some rabbit holes. And I want to kind of avoid that, at least for this discussion, is those are ways you can transition your business. Like I said, at some point, you're not going to be around to steward that. And the really thing, the thing you might want to do is, try to start planning and thinking, even if it's 20 years from now, what are at least the things that look like today? So anyways, just want to kind of bring up those three things. The next topic really is about the when, right? Those are just real briefly the how, but the when. So I wanted to share with you a little story because, the when, some people just don't know. A lot of people think, hey, it's going to be when I retire. It's going to be when I'm 65. A lot of people have these, and that's fine. If you kind of know when you think your win's going to be, nothing wrong with that. I still encourage people to walk through some aspects of the win and really it's more of a heart posture, I think, than strategy when it comes to this. And that's something that I think my own story kind of might add some context to. So I just want to share that with you a little bit. So it was 2021. So what was that? 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago. I sold my business to a national partnership. I'm still with them and everything. It was High Street Insurance, and it's been an awesome, awesome ride. But if you had asked me in 2020 if I was even thinking about selling, I would have said no. I'll be honest with you. I had not considered it. I knew one day, I'd done some planning and thought that one day, because I was buying agencies. I was buying, up to that point, I'd bought already 20 different agencies. So I was growing. I had this vision, and selling wasn't even on my radar, but God shifted the assignment. And so if you're open to God's leading, he really shifted the assignment. And it caught me off guard a little bit, because I was kind of like, God, I'm not done building it. Why do you want me to even consider this? Because I wasn't even going to listen. But God really prompted me and said, hey, just listen. Just listen. I got something to show you. And so in that process, he also reminded me, if you've been on this podcast a little bit, you've heard me mention C12, phenomenal organization, Christian CEO business group that taught me so much for the 7 years I was in it. And one of the things that they showed me, and we did a study one time that really brought out to light how the Japanese in their culture, their businesses sometimes will have like a 100-year business plan or a 500-year business plan, which to me just sounds crazy. Like sometimes it's hard for me to see into next year. We always do our 1, 3, and 5 year plans, but for them to say 100-year plan, it really opened my eyes to what it is we're really doing when we own a business. We're just stewarding something for this little point in time. And that stewardship, it's important to make sure you strengthen it while it's under your stewardship, to pass it on to when you're passing that baton to the next owner, or the next steward, I really should say. And so when I was doing that, I used to always say, you know what? Everything we do in our business, it's about the mission and the vision. It shouldn't be all about me, the owner. It shouldn't be about just all what I want, my ideas. You really filter everything through your mission, your vision, your values. You bring accountability around that, because, I can be whimsical and I can just be flighty one day and want to do this. And I've done that. If you ask anybody on my team, I've done that, and I've chased rabbits and went down rabbit holes. And that didn't really help the mission that much, but I had this idea. So where I'm getting at with that is trying to make sure that you realize your stewardship, it's not about you. And when God put this on my plate to consider selling my business, I'm like, hey, well, how can it strengthen my mission and my vision? So I was open to it. I was like, hey, if you can show me by me selling my business, and I have this great mission that I feel like God's led me to, how will me selling it to you help? How will it help my team? How will it help the communities that I serve, our clients? Basically, if you can sell me on that, then I'll listen. And so our leadership group went through, it was over a dozen, I believe, suitors that wanted to consider buying us. And of those dozen or so, none of them was a fit. And it just didn't really look like anything we wanted to consider. But I think it was number 13. And number 13 was this company called High Street. And they just intrigued us so much. They were doing something way different than what we had seen in the marketplace. And so much of it was they didn't look at us just as a numbers. It wasn't all about the sell or the multiple or how much they're going to give us or this or that. It was really about, they looked at us and the businesses that we had built as living legacies. And they wanted to be a part of that. And they wanted us to be a part of their team to build the best insurance agency in America. And we talked with their CEO, their CFO, all their leadership group, and you could just see something was different. And as soon as we kind of, opened up that box, it was like, oh, this is kind of like a no-brainer. It really was. It was like, man, we can accomplish A, B, and C. We're better together. It matched with my vision. Their culture was just almost identical. If you looked at like their culture and their brand and their vision, their mission, you could stack ours next to each other. And it's like, man, they just seemed almost identical. So we were really excited about this. But the other thing God had to do with me was I had to put myself on the altar. Meaning, I'd been the guy in charge for 20 plus years in either owning my own business or running a business. And, when you put yourself under someone else, like I had not fully done that to any large degree. And so I had to say, God, it's not about me. And it's about trust. God, I trust whatever you have next is going to be good. It's going to be better. And yeah, I just had to lean into that. And so With High Street, it's been phenomenal. I don't want to keep going on and on about them, but I am really excited and proud of the company we're with. But the idea really is that putting yourself on the altar, keeping an open mind about what does it look like to accomplish your mission and vision. Selling might be around the corner, and if you don't keep your mind open to that, you may miss something really, really special. So, like I said, it's something to take to the Lord. It's something that each one of us have to journey on our path. But I thought my story might, shed some light on some things that, the right time is not always when you think you're ready. Sometimes it's just that, hey, the mission that you have might require a new steward because the mission's that big. And if it can be better, more resources, more opportunities for your people. I've seen that in the last 4 years. It's been so exciting because I've seen other people rise up in the roles and the opportunities they've had and that I could have never done. Like just in my team, like I could have not created these opportunities. So that's been a real joy for us. So again, just some things to consider. One other thing, again, it kind of goes back to obedience of me just being open to God and considering things. There's a little saying here that I sometimes talk about. It says sometimes obedience accelerates transition. Sometimes obedience delays transition, but obedience always clarifies transition. And we're all in transition on one level or another. And this may speak to you about your business. It can speak to you on some other levels, but I just wanted to share that with you today. If it stirred something in you and you're wondering what's my next chapter? What's my next step? I would love someone to help me with that. Godlight Legacy Advisors, we're here for you. If you click on a link in the description below, also think and apologize at the time of this podcast. I have a downloadable for you. I think it's going to be like the top 10 myths in the M&A world that business owners need to know about. That's probably going to be the one we put down there. So go ahead and click on that. But just connect with us. Really, if there's something that we think we can help, we can book a discovery call or something like that. But your business is part of your legacy. Let's steward it well together. And I hope you have a great day.